It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the business owner of On and Off the Field Sports Podcast, Dylan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you got started with your sports podcast?
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, a little bit longer than 2 years ago, I was kind of just told by, someone in the family, you kind of got a good voice and you really like sports. Why not do a podcast? I didn't even know what podcasts were 2 years ago. So I looked into it, sounded like fun, started doing it, and here we are. I like it a lot, so we're still doing it.
How did you come up with the name On and Off the Field?
The on the field part, we talk about sports, obviously, that kind of goes without saying. And then the other part of the podcast is we talk about charity and the charitable actions of athletes off the field. And then the podcast itself is constantly doing fundraising for random charities, whatever we decide that we're going to do for that time period. So on the field, and then people doing stuff off the field. It kind of just came together.
That's so nice that y'all do off charities for. What segments do y'all have on y'all's podcasts?
So we normally just start out nice and simple introduction, just talking about how our day was. We always do a live show, so we see who's just hanging out with us during the live show. And then we go into the other sports, which is basically baseball, hockey, basketball, because me and my co-host, Fred, we call that the other sports because we don't really follow those sports as much. So we give them the news of the other sports, and then we move into NFL news, which the NFL is our specialty. And then we have a main segment at the end of the show, which is it could be an off the field topic. It could be us doing some power rankings, whatever the case calls for.
So have you talked about the coronavirus and how it affects the NFL?
Yeah, we've talked about it in past weeks, but this week is going to be big because there's games all over the place. I saved a screenshot of all the games that are being moved around in future weeks. It's gotten messy.
What are some people that you've interviewed in the past?
We've interviewed a lot of just other sports podcasters. Probably our most high profile interview wasn't even sports related. It was a band from Poland, I think. The band's called Arsenic, and the person we interviewed was the lead singer, Olivia. And yeah, that that was a really cool interview that we did. It wasn't sports related, but it was still really cool.
Who are some of the people that you've interviewed on the sports related side?
We brought on people from Twist Sports Talk, Mike Reeves, Mike Benz, Green Bay Greg. We've brought on Mike Buckheister. We brought on, just tons of people, all kinds of different podcasts. I'm trying to think of all of them. I'm blanking on most of them, but those are some of the big ones. Brandon Combs from Triple Shot Sports we've had on. Yeah, if you want a list, I'll give you all the lists. I know a billion sports podcasters at this point.
Can you talk about your segment, the Def and Dylan Live?
Yeah, Durf and Dylan, the live show. Yeah, it's we decided, to take our podcast and make it a video basically. So we use StreamYard and we just go live on Facebook and our YouTube page. So it just gives a nice, fun live aspect to the podcast. So if you're listening to it recorded, you kind of get some, why is he talking to a person in the middle of a podcast? It's because we're doing the live show at the same time. So people get to comment on it. They just get to chat with us during the show, ask us some questions. So it's a good time.
How has the experience been doing live? Because I know for me, I kind of get a little nervous and forget what I say whenever I have to maybe do it live.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking at first because it's easy, you sit there and you hit the record button and you could just stop it, delete something, start over again. you're doing it live. It's definitely, it was nerve-wracking at first, but something I've learned along the way is before we do our live shows, we always take extensive notes. We make Google Docs between me and my co-host, and we have notes right in front of us that we go off of that are like 2 or 3 pages long. So we definitely we stumble over ourselves too. I make mistakes constantly, especially during the segment The Other Sports. I'll just say something that's completely wrong. But I guess that's kind of the fun part, and then I get called out in the comment section, and it's kind of what makes it fun.
What are some of your future plans for on and off the field?
I want to work on the aesthetic feel in the background. I got my flag and whatnot. I'm just trying to make it look a little cleaner. And then I'm trying to get more high profile interviews. I'd love to talk to some athletes, actually, do interviews with people that actually are in sports. That'd be a pretty good start. So that's my goal for at least 2021. Start getting some better interviews.
What advice would you give upcoming future sports talk podcasts that are just starting?
Just make sure you're doing it for fun, and make sure, obviously, if you even want to start a podcast about sports, you love sports. So just make sure you're really loving sports. Make sure you love podcasting, and make sure you're just in it for the right reasons. I've been doing this for 2 years. Our downloads are not very good. We're not making any money pretty much, but we just do it because we love it. So if that's really the reason that you're going to make your podcast, you actually love what you're going to be doing, then you're going to be good to go.
What can my listeners look forward to seeing in the future in your podcast?
Just a lot of fun. That's our main goal when we have this podcast. When you tune into the show, it's just a good time between me and a buddy, and then whoever else wants to tune in and just chat along with us. I mean, you're not going to be like watching ESPN and you're just going to be given the news. We're going to get into some fun topics. We go off on some tangents. We talk about a lot of topics that, other shows might not even be talking about. We just bring them up because we think it's a fun thing to talk about. That's just kind of how we roll. So it's a different feel than with the off the field part. It's a great aspect. And hopefully when you do come along and we're doing a fundraiser, and it's a fundraiser that you really feel like you can contribute to, something that really speaks to you. Like right now we're doing the Boys and Girls Club of America. If that really speaks to you, then hopefully you can donate towards that, and it makes you feel good too. So you get a podcast and you feel good about yourself. It's a win-win.
That's wonderful. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all at OOTF Podcast. And then all the links for everything, including social media and fundraisers, whatever, is on onandoffthefield.com.
Thank you again for your interview, Dylan, and best of luck with your podcast On and Off the Field.
Thank you very much, sir.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Dylan, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you. You too.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.